What a time to be alive. It is a beautiful day outside, and most importantly, we have a real money fantasy football draft on deck. Could not be more excited to get this going, and we are going to be picking from the 108. We've had a couple drafts over the past few days around this spot, and personally, I like it. Now, what we're really hoping for is we're hoping for another Stefon Diggs start here at 8, but before we kick this off, if you're not drafting on Underdog Fantasy, fix your life. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Link in the description. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, most importantly, you'll be able to have some fun, getting some real money fantasy football drafts. B, you will get a 100% deposit match up to $100, so it's free for you to try. And C, literally with just a $10 deposit, you are going to get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide that has close to 300 pages of high quality information. So please make sure you take advantage of that. But it looks like Darehole is now on the clock at the 101. We're going to assume Jonathan Taylor. After that, we're going to assume CMC, Kupp, Jefferson, Chase. Should be the normal 5 off the board. Now, what sucks is we have an experienced drafter right next to us at 7, so we can assume that we probably have absolutely no shot whatsoever of getting one of those top 5 guys, even if they were to fall. So it looks like the team at the 101's not around. Hopefully, they're not auto-drafting the entire time and slowing this down for everyone else. But Jonathan Taylor, CMC off the board with the first 2 picks. It's what you should expect. That's what happens in pretty much every single draft. Nothing really to talk about. Kupp at 3. Nothing to talk about here either. I mean, really, the draft starts at 6, in my opinion. Once you have those first 5 guys off, 6, that's where you have some real decision points to be made. Are you going to go Eckler? Are you going to go Diggs? Are you going to go Henry? Jefferson goes at 4. Hopefully, we don't get Chase at 5. I want to see some randomness. No, Chase at 5. The most cookie-cutter start you could have to an underdog draft here through the first 5 picks. Longhorn on the clock. Dear God, did not even see that. Hook 'em horns. Let's throw those horns up. Rooting for you at 6, my friend. Rooting for you at 6. Hopefully, you do not embarrass Longhorn Nation. Hopefully, you do not embarrass the great school of the University of Texas. But let's see what he does at 6. He goes Najee Harris, a running back that's been falling to... Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. He goes Najee Harris, a running back that's been falling to the second round in some of these drafts. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get Stefon Diggs. Yes, we're taking Stefon Diggs over Derrick Henry. I get it. A lot of people are going to hate it. Yes, Derrick Henry is a running back that has a lot of upside. At the same time, he's going into his age 28 season. I am concerned about the overall Tennessee Titans offense when you don't have A.J. Brown there. I think a lot of running backs in this range have a couple red flags with their profile, and the running backs we'll have in round 2 have the same ceiling. We can look at an Aaron Jones, who, without Devontae Adams, legitimately has averaged 26 fantasy points per game over the past few years. So if we find that running back value that we like consistently in the second round, I'm going to be fine passing on that running back in the first, grabbing a Stefon Diggs. I think the ideal start to these drafts at this point is honestly the exact opposite of what you would have seen over the past 5 years. Over the past 5 years, what you should have been doing in your fantasy drafts, probably going running back in the first, maybe running back in the second, depending who's on the board for you. And then rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you're just receiver, 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 all in the middle rounds. But now people have woken up and really understood how these drafts should fall. So it's going to be much harder to find that wide receiver value in the middle rounds. And it looks like we are going to have Mike Evans making it to us a big 17. So we'll go ahead. We'll actually start with a wide receiver heavy approach. I'm going to feel comfortable. We got James Conner in the 4th round the other day. Like, running backs will fall to us in this draft. Please don't worry about that. With Evans, I'm less excited about a best ball format where you expect the majority of the value of your draft to be had in weeks 15, 16, and 17. Whereas with Mike Evans, if I were to have him to fall to us here in a regular fantasy football draft, dear God, you need to be jumping up and down with excitement, because Mike Evans is a wide receiver that through the first month of the season, if you have no Chris Godwin, he could be the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy. But now it looks like maybe this is going to be a running back heavy draft room when you get Nick Chubb sliding up to pick 20 here. In the draft yesterday, we actually were able to select Nick Chubb at pick 27. So definitely we need to be on the lookout for maybe, just maybe, running backs sliding up, which of course would not be good for us when we start with Stephon Diggs and Mike Evans. But hell, I've done almost 400 of these underdog drafts this offseason. I think we have a good idea of how to go through and find value in this draft. But Andrews at 21, Tyreek Hill goes at 22. Personally, I'm a big fan of just going with Mark Andrews here at the end of the second round. I mean, based on the upside that you have at the position, as well as the bonus that you get from a roster construction standpoint and only having to draft 2 tight ends, I really do like the idea of taking Andrews at pick 21. Don't be surprised when we take Kyle Pitts here at 32. I really like Kyle Pitts based on his rookie season production as well as his prospect profile. But let's see what you have here at the 2-3 turn. A.J. Brown goes pick 23. Was A.J. Brown an auto pick here? I don't think he was. Yeah, A.J. Brown has an ADP of 26, so A.J. Brown should go behind Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams. So it looks like this team maybe at 2 is just going to be setting a queue and then letting that timer go down based on that 23 picker. Maybe it's just taking a while. And then we have T. Higgins, Javonte Williams off the board here at the 2-3 turn. Personally, I think it's fine. Obviously, it's hard to find value at the 2-3 turn. I mean, it's going to be the same player pool that you're choosing from pretty much every single draft. Now, if I were to try to quote unquote reach on someone, I probably would reach on Pitts. If I just had to reach on someone out of those guys that usually go there. But I mean, usually you can find value. Like I said, we had Nick Chubb falling to us at pick 27 in the draft we had yesterday. Okay, so here at pick 26, we have Keenan Allen off the board. So looks like that CMC team maybe took CMC and then just queued up a bunch of wide receivers here for the middle rounds, going with that hero running back, going with that anchor RB, going with whatever the hell you want to call it approach. Leonard Fournette falls all the way to pick 27. This has been a trend that I have seen as of late. Now, of course, Leonard Fournette has an ADP of 21, but I don't know if it's just Leonard Fournette showing up to camp out of shape. Maybe that's what it is. But people are sliding Leonard Fournette down their rankings, surprisingly, even though he should have a very high target share in Tampa this upcoming season based off of all the weapons that they lost, obviously, with Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, potentially the beginning portion of the season, also missing out on Chris Godwin. But you know what? I forgot. This is a Stephon Diggs team. So I guess if we do get Josh Allen making it to us at pick 32, we're going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take Josh Allen. I'm fine with Josh Allen or Kyle Pitts. Yeah, Kyle Pitts goes. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Josh Allen here at pick 32. This is like the third draft in the last 4 days that we have had Stephon Diggs in the first round and Josh Allen making it to us in the third. Usually you have to reach on Diggs a little bit if you want to get the Allen stack. But hell, I mean, if we are going to be able to pair Diggs and Allen together and have Mike Evans on that roster, I honestly think not too many other people are going to be able to do the same. And I've said this before, so I'll keep it brief. But I do think that Josh Allen has access to a ceiling in fantasy football that we haven't seen from him before. Obviously, he was the quarterback one in fantasy this past year. Obviously, he was already a league winner. But I think he could get better because if you look at Josh Allen had a touchdown rate of 5.6%. I'm telling you for a damn fact, that touchdown rate may go higher this upcoming season. Don't be surprised if that touchdown rate reverts back to what it was in 2020 and gets back to 6.5%. And if you look at the combination of passing volume and Josh Allen's rushing production, the only quarterbacks to have 250 passing yards per game and 40 rushing yards per game over the past 22 years. Josh Allen, Michael Vick, Cam Newton. That's the type of ceiling you're seeing from Josh Allen. Very excited to take him here near the end of the third. I will say, I'm going to be very upset if Lamar Jackson, if Patrick Mahomes make it to us at pick 56, because of course those would be even better values at the quarterback position, adjusting to their cost. Terry McLaurin goes. That's great. Honestly, I prefer both Travis Etienne and Jalen Waddle over Terry McLaurin. I would go ahead. I would take Travis Etienne over Waddle if they're both available to us based on the fact that we already have 2 elite level wide receivers. We already have the combination of Stephon Diggs and Mike Evans. But let's see what Lions Den decides to do here at pick 40. I mean, if I were them, you're 2 running backs in with Derrick Henry and Joe Mixon. You just take Hollywood Brown as your first wide receiver in round 3. Interesting to take Hollywood Brown over James Conner. They go.
I'm not a smart man.
We are the team that drafted Josh Allen. If anybody was supposed to be considering Gabriel Davis in this range, of course, it should be us. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to take this year's version of Deandre Swift. Y'all know I loved drafting Deandre Swift in the 3rd and 4th rounds of fantasy drafts last year. One of my most drafted running backs, one of my most drafted players overall. Hell, now Deandre Swift is a little bit expensive. Now you got to take Deandre Swift as the 15th player off the board. But you know who you don't have to take in that range? You don't have to take Travis Etienne there. Another running back that should see every target out of his backfield, also touches in the red zone. So it's a profile that you want to be attacking, especially when we go 3 non-running backs through the first 3 rounds. It's what we were addressing when we were saying that we'll be able to find running back value later. We take Diggs, we take Evans in the first 2 rounds because I love this Travis Etienne value. Now, I will admit that Jalen Waddle pick is pretty damn sexy as well. If you're going to be looking at Jalen Waddle at pick 42, like, guys, we said this in another live stream with another example between Alan Lazard and Michael Thomas, but I understand what we want to do every offseason is we want to look at every offense, every situation, put it under a microscope and look at every tiny detail. And sometimes we get lost in the weeds. But what can help you is just taking a step back, taking 10 steps back and saying out loud, saying these words. Gabriel Davis is a wide receiver being drafted before Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, who the Miami Dolphins moved up by trading a 13th overall selection and a future first-round pick to go draft. And then Jalen Waddle, who puts up one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time. We don't have to give you the numbers. We've already done it over and over and over again. I know he gets overshadowed because he was in the same draft class as Jamar Chase. Of course, I mean, Jamar Chase is that guy. But you're taking Gabriel Davis over Jalen Waddle. At the end of the day, I don't give a damn about the situation. If that's going to be the decision that you're making a bad one, okay? Step out of the weeds, stop focusing on these tiny details, and say out loud, do I want Gabriel Davis over Jalen Waddle? Now, Deontay Johnson goes at pick 46. Deontay, another player that I really do like the value of. We have Herbert, 45, Mahomes, 48, making me feel a little bit more comfortable about my selection of Josh Allen. What would be great to see now is if this team, Fantasy Wizard King, decides to go and take Lamar, pair him up with Mark Andrews. Of course, he cares about his stacks here if he's going to go take Mike Williams and Justin Herbert on the same team. I personally probably wouldn't take Herbert and Lamar at the 4-5 turn, even in a best ball format. However, when we have Josh Allen at pick 32, selfishly, I'm wanting to see it. Selfishly, it would definitely help us sliding up other quarterbacks up draft boards and possibly letting us get other values at wide receiver and running back. But no, instead he decides to go Jerry Jeudy over Lamar Jackson. Slightly disappointing. It is what it is. He could have been our hero. George Kittle off the board. This is like the grossest range of drafts. This is why you have to take Allen. You just have to take Allen when he falls to you in the 3rd and you took Stephon Diggs in the 1st. But at the same time, Lamar Jackson is a million times, and I want to emphasize the million times more enticing than any other player in this range. However, because we have Allen, it's not a fun pick to make. And so I know we want to take our wide receivers early, historically speaking, wide receivers where you want to go in the middle rounds, and historically speaking, rounds 5, round 6, that's the running back dead zone. Very bad bets that you've made historically, but we recently made a video on this. Hopefully it's been posted by now. But if you look historically, when that data came in, the running backs that were being selected in rounds 4, 5, and 6, they were horrible guys. I mean, we even knew that going into the season. They were just horrible talents that you were projecting for opportunity on paper because there was nobody else on the roster. However, we're looking at J.K. Dobbins versus Rashad Babin. I'm taking Dobbins here. Now, of course, we're reaching on ADP. I don't care. I think Dobbins is the better player. We took Evans. We took Stephon Diggs at the beginning of the draft so we can take advantage of this running back value in the middle rounds. And I'm happy that we had that Lamar Jackson team. Happy that we had Arnold there right before us, taking Lamar, so I didn't have to embarrass myself and draft Lamar Jackson in the 5th because I can't help myself because I have no self-restraint whatsoever. But we have Rashad Bateman, Darnell Mooney, Amon-Ra St. Brown going all directly after. Of course, I mean, that's pretty solid value for those receivers if you're just looking at where they usually go. Usually Rashad Bateman is off the board before this and so on. Adam Thielen, 61. So it looks like this team here picking at 12 is not afraid to go out and reach on his guys. He reaches on Allen Robinson, takes Allen Robinson, in my opinion, way too freaking early. I personally would never be able to take Allen Robinson there at pick 37 and then taking Adam Thielen at pick 61 when Adam Thielen is a player that 9 times out of 10 you're going to be able to get at the very end of the 6th, the very beginning of the 7th. So I would personally pass on Thielen there, but hell, I'm going to be happy if it pushes other value down to us. I'm not going to complain at all. You have Elijah Mitchell going at pick 62. Russell Gage, 63. We're easily taking Godwin. Godwin's available. We're going Chris Godwin. Hell yes. We are going to get that double stack in here with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Get that correlation in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers receiving game. Y'all got to give me props, guys. Through 6 rounds, this is a phenomenal draft. Now, I will say, I usually don't like drafting Tom Brady. Like, if you're looking at Tom Brady's price point in these drafts and the opportunity cost to take him versus some of the other, honestly, even quarterbacks in that range, I prefer someone like Trey Lance. But I would just go ahead and probably look to take Brady if he were to be available to us at pick 80. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out when it comes to Tom Brady. I do think regardless of if we get Brady or not, just having Godwin and having Evans on the same team is probably pretty damn good, because if we are going to look at Godwin here, this is a player that may miss the beginning portion of the season, as we already said. So the amount of teams that are able to sneak Chris Godwin into the fantasy football playoff tournament at the very end of the season, probably not going to be too many. However, if Mike Evans hits his ceiling and is able to actually say be the wide receiver 1 overall during that time period, like we said at the beginning of the video, we could overcome that lack of production with Chris Godwin on this roster at the beginning portion of the season and still have that elite level ceiling at the very end of the year. So I love getting Godwin here at pick 65. Jalen Hurts, pick 70, fantastic value with Jalen Hurts. I think this is the team that took A.J. Brown, right? No, okay, the A.J. Brown team gets sniped on Hurts. I would be so mad if I thought Jalen Hurts was going to fall one more pick to us at pick 71. We were going to pair up Jalen Hurts at a massive value with A.J. Brown, clearly as wide receiver 1. And you also could have possibly gone ahead and say, gotten Devonta Smith at the beginning of the 7th. That would have been pretty exciting. Now, Hunter Renfro goes at pick 72. Not dying to have Hunter Renfro make it back to us. I've already said this, but I think if you're looking at Hunter Renfro at like pick 72 at the end of the 6th round versus getting Tyler Boyd at like pick 110, dear God, I feel like both wide receivers are very comparable talents. I think they're both going to play in comparable roles. They're going to play in condensed offenses that really only use 3 options in the receiving game. In Cincinnati, it'll be Chase, Higgins, Boyd. In Las Vegas, obviously, it's going to be Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro. My opinion, the only difference is you're paying for the recent production with Hunter Renfro because he didn't have to compete with Darren Waller at the end of last year. Darren Waller was injured. Obviously, he didn't have to compete with Mr. Devontae Adams in Green Bay, but now he's going to have to this upcoming season, so I do think it'll be very comparable to what you had with Tyler Boyd last year. But Michael Thomas goes pick 74. Y'all know I usually can't help myself to draft Michael Thomas when he's available at pick 80, so thank you for saving us from ourselves taking Michael Thomas. We have Russell Wilson off. If A.J. Dillon were to fall, we're going to have to go ahead and take Dillon. If Tom Brady were to make it back to us in the 8th at pick 89, I go Tom Brady. I don't even think about it. I love to have that double stack there with Evans, Godwin, and Brady. Lance off the board at 78. Ooh. The issue is, guys, Dillon falls 13 picks with his ADP, right? And we're not trying to just have the highest median projection. We are trying to build super teams that nobody else in this massive large field tournament is going to be able to. So while, yes, maybe it definitely would help our projection in just this regular 12-team league to go ahead and take Tom Brady here in the 7th round, if we consider the overall context of the entire contest, whenever we have A.J. Dillon falling 13 picks in his ADP here, we're able to bring him in as our 3rd running back. It's unlikely we get Tom Brady. Yeah, Tom Brady does go pick 82, but it's definitely possible if you look at Tom Brady's ADP. The reason I said it was unlikely is because I did notice that the Russell Gage team was right there. They did decide to take him, but still, it was a possibility. We swung for the fences. Sometimes we're going to hit a foul ball, but we're still up at the plate sometimes. we are going to be able to find upside a little bit later on. I still like having the correlation of Evans and Godwin, even if we don't have Tom Brady, because we have Josh Allen on this team. We take Josh Allen in round 3. We're not necessarily incentivized to ever go out there and reach on another QB after. But the team on the clock right now is the team that hasn't been afraid to reach on their guys. They took Allen Robinson, 37. They took Adam Thielen at 61. They go Stafford at 84. Oh, dear. Thank you. They go Singletary at 80. Thank you. That's all I got to say. Thank you for pushing this value down to us. If we have Miles Sanders, I'll be taking Miles Sanders. If we have Kirk, we'll be going Kirk. We'll be going Ayuk, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm even considering Hawkinson. There are so many interesting guys here. I don't think we can go Dak Prescott, just given the fact that, hell, we took Allen. If we were wanting to grab another elite level quarterback here in this range, the guy we should have drafted was Tom Brady. Tom Brady was going to be the only quarterback in play for us here. Sanders is an auto pick. He falls 11 picks in his ADP. Sanders is going to be an auto pick for us. This goes back to what we were talking about with finding running back value in the middle rounds, hammering wide receivers early. It's the exact opposite strategy that has worked over the past 5 years for us, but this is the exact opposite board texture to what we have seen over the past 5 years. So yeah, you have Hawkinson going pick 88, so it is going to be easy for us to go ahead, take Miles Sanders at pick 89. I do think you can make the argument that once we go Miles Sanders here, that you may not even have to draft another running back with this team. Like, I understand that argument is definitely going to exist, but what I would say is, hell, we have Josh Allen. We're only going to have to take one other quarterback regardless. We have Diggs and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at wide receiver. It's a very strong team. Let me repeat myself out loud because I am happy with this team so far. Josh Allen at quarterback, having the quarterback 1 in fantasy. Stephon Diggs with that Josh Allen stack. Also, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin at wide receiver 2 and 3. However, not sacrificing running back production, still managing to get Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders here. Oh, guys, y'all got to give me some props. Now, with our next pick, I know 9 out of 10 people are going to tell me, Mason, it's easy. You got to go Dawson Knox. You don't have a tight end yet. You have Josh Allen. I've been on record saying Dawson Knox. I do think that he is going to take a step back this year. I understand it may not matter when we have Allen. We may just have to go ahead and we have to draft him. But that touchdown rate looks unsustainable. He's given me Robert Tonyan 2021 vibes. So if Dawson Knox and James Cook are both available at pick 104, we're going to do what we've done over the past few Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs teams. We're probably going to pass on both players and then let the rest of the draft room determine who we get at 113. I do think it's important to find a secondary Buffalo Bills pass catcher on a Josh Allen build, but I think we are going to be able to find that at 113 with either Knox or James Cook, because remember, the reason that you have a Dawson Knox ADP here is 9 out of 10 times the Josh Allen teams feel like they need to reach on him. And I just prefer James Cook over Dawson Knox, even though we have no need for running back. So we'll just take whatever value falls to us at 104. We've been taking Lockett a lot here, but no stress if we don't get that Lockett value. Zach Ertz goes. Okay, so if Zach Ertz is off, I do think our likelihood to get Dawson Knox is definitely lowered. Okay, now that we have Lockett off, you know what? Maybe we end up just taking Dawson Knox, because one thing I do want to point out as well is this Longhorn team decided to go out of their way and draft both Darren Waller and Dalton Schultz. So they're going out there. They're monopolizing the tight end position. We just saw Zach Ertz. We just saw Dallas Goedert go before their ADP as well. So maybe these tight ends are going to slide up. So if we get Dawson Knox at his ADP or slightly behind on a Josh Allen build, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't love Damian Harris. I don't love Rashad Penny at this price point. Tyler Boyd's off the board at 102. Let's think through this. Okay, let's sit here and think through this. So if we were to pass on Knox, we're highly unlikely to get Dawson Knox. I don't want to take Damian Harris here because I do want to have the potential to draft James Cook in the next round if we take Damian Harris here. And then in the next round, we just can't draft James Cook. So what I'm going to do, we're going to roll the dice. We already have Diggs. If we didn't have Diggs, I'll just go ahead. I'll take Dawson Knox here automatically. We're going to draft one of the last wide receivers in this tier. We're going to grab Robert Woods here as our wide receiver 4. It sounds like, unlike Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, who did tear his ACL way earlier than Godwin did, should be ready to start the year. I really like Robert Woods in his price point this season. We can assume that Damian Harris is going to be off the board by the time we get back up on the clock, so it gives us a higher chance to potentially get Dawson Knox, to potentially get James Cook making it back. So yeah, I think actually that's probably a pretty good call because we have Chase Claypool going directly after us. Damian Harrison 106. Kenny Golladay goes at the 107. Okay, so that team that decides to reach on every single pick to take someone 20 picks before their ADP, they go and take the value of Dawson Knox. It is what it is. I think we did probably make the right call taking a wide receiver and then just getting James Cook on the way back around. You have Tim Patrick at pick 110, Garrett Wilson 111. Let's go ahead. And if we were to draft, say, Aaron Jones in round 2, I would have been fine taking Rodgers here, but there's no reason for us to take Aaron Rodgers. Let's instead take James Cook, a running back that I am very excited about, that I think will immediately be the best pass catching running back in Buffalo the second that he steps on the field. And by the end of the season, maybe, just maybe, it's a long shot. He's very small. I will say that James Cook's very small. Like, I don't like him as a talent, but with this roster construction in particular, maybe, just maybe, he starts getting 10 carries out of the backfield per game, steals that work from Devin Singletary, and then he would have league-breaking upside with his receiving skill set in presumably the best passing offense in the NFL. But after we take James Cook, exactly what we want to see, more running backs off the board. We are not looking to draft another running back. We have our 5 guys. We're done. I really like the 5 running backs that we have as well. So we want tight ends making it back, and we should be able to find some fine tight end value. If we are looking at grabbing another quarterback, which we are going to need, Robert Woods and Ryan Tannehill matchup, we could go ahead. We could end up getting Trevor Lawrence with Travis Etienne. Where did we see Christian Kirk go off the board? Kirk goes 86. So it would have been nice if we had Kirk making it back to us at 89. We could have got the Jacksonville Jaguars double stack there with Lawrence. Yeah, I really like this roster. I know we've been saying that pretty much every single draft we've done, but go back and look at some of the drafts that we did like months ago. You'll hear me go, oh, I hate our team. Oh, our team's trash. Why did we draft this? Like, we were making so many mistakes at the very beginning, but hell, if you draft 400 teams, you better be very good of it by the end. That's why we're firing up all these $5 drafts closer to the season. I think I'll have more practice than anybody else. Will be able to fire up those $250 drafts and absolutely crush. But if you want to practice for your fantasy football league, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Like I said, a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy is matched to $20. It's best ball, so it's no time commitment at all during the season. You can fire up a couple of these practice drafts to get ready for your main league that you care about. And also, you get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide with a $10 deposit that's matched, so it's essentially free. Use promo code FLOCK. Find the link in the description. Have some fun getting some drafts. But after we take Cook, it looks like running backs are now starting to dry up. You got Rojo going off the board at 118. That gap between Ronald Jones and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it is close. In my opinion, probably a little bit too much given the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, at least we can tell ourselves that he has a path to a relatively high ceiling if he is able to become the starting running back in Kansas City and draw targets out of the backfield. Ronald Jones is never going to be targeted as a pass catcher. So I think Rojo, even if he were to be the starting running back in Kansas City, is definitely going to have a cap ceiling compared to what we're going to find with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Rashad White off the board, great. Give us Michael Gallup. Let's just continue to take these wide receivers coming off a torn ACL. Going to miss the beginning portion of the season, but we are looking at a wide receiver that hell should have the elite level ceiling for weeks 15, 16, and 17. We presumably have a top 3 wide receiver to start the year in any game that Chris Godwin misses with Mike Evans in round 2. Robert Woods, as we said, well, yes, our last 3 wide receivers are coming off torn ACLs. If you look at the timeline for these guys, I think Godwin, while Adam Schefter says he should be ready for week 1, I'd be surprised. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Godwin misses, say, 2 to 3 weeks. Robert Woods is good to go by week 1. Gallup probably misses an entire month. Gallup actually tore his ACL after Chris Godwin did. So thank God we get Jameson Williams off the board, because I'll tell you right now, there's no way in hell we could have drafted Jameson Williams on this team. Doesn't matter how far he fell. It doesn't matter if he fell to us at pick 152. Can't just continue to take these wide receivers that are going to miss a couple weeks to start the year. But like I said, we're primarily going after those guys with upside in weeks 15, 16, 17. So KJ Osborne off the board, Jameis Winston off the board. If Justin Fields makes it to us, we're going Justin Fields. I know we don't have anybody for Chicago, but I simply just don't care, given the fact that with Justin Fields, this is a quarterback that has the rushing upside that we're looking for. Even though y'all know I've been the biggest Justin Fields hater. I was hating on Justin Fields nonstop Back when people in Dynasty were taking him over Trey Lance. Remember that was happening. I was called the biggest clown ever for taking Trey Lance and saying it was something you had to do over Justin Fields in Dynasty. But now people have realized their mistake. You have Trey Lance as like the quarterback 7 off the board, and we're getting Justin Fields here after Jameis Winston and Daniel Jones. I'd be fine with Jarvis as well. We're going to go with Fields or Jarvis. Okay, Tolbert off. Let's go ahead. Let's fire up Justin Fields. Now we are no longer going to be drafting quarterbacks. Like I said, with Justin Fields, 100%. We'd prefer having him on a team that has Darnell Mooney. We'd prefer having him on a team that has Cole Kmet. However, he has the rushing upside, so I don't think it's the end of the world not having a stack here with Justin Fields when we're getting him at a massive value. And I think that you're actually going to find some of these quarterbacks pushed up draft boards a little bit later on, because these quarterbacks that should be going off the board in a couple of rounds, like Lawrence, Daniel Jones, and Jameis Winston, they're already gone. Since they're already gone, maybe we are going to find some drafters feeling the need to go out and take some more of these guys, which of course would help, like 100% help us when we have the combination of Josh Allen and Fields. Okay, Gesicki goes at pick 140. We're going to need some tight ends making him back. I think Higbee is one of the best values in drafts right now. We can go ahead, say in our next pick, get an Albert O. The pick after that, get a Tyler Higbee. We'll figure it out. We'll be able to figure it out at tight end. We'll take 3 of these guys. Maybe we go ahead and take Cameron Brate, get every single pass catcher there in Tampa. Tua Tagovailoa goes pick 141. I would like to say, oh yeah, look, these teams are reaching on QB. But no, Tua is probably the best ranked player according to ADP, so it is what it is. It's definitely nice to see him off. Last thing we wanted to see is Tua Tagovailoa available to us to pick 152. Now, remember, we already have our 5 RBs. We already have Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders, James Cook. So, you know how many players we drafted on this team that are coming back from season-ending injuries? Dear God, this is just the 2021 all-injured team. Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, our running back 1, running back 2, coming off of season-ending injuries. Chris Godwin, our wide receiver 3, coming off a season-ending injury. Robert Woods coming off a season-ending injury. Michael Gallup coming off a season-ending injury. Half of this team was placed on the IR last year. Legitimately, half of this team. Now, sadly, Alberto does go off the board at pick 144, so we're not going to get Alberto. Maybe we end up getting like a Robert Tonyan here at pick 152. That wouldn't be the end of the world. Maybe we get a Hunter Henry, pick 152. Oh, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Take Darrell Henderson. Take Naheem Hines. Take Michael Carter. Don't be taking Devontae Parker from us. And Jamison Crowder. Oh, Jamison Crowder would be perfect if you were to make it back to us with Josh Allen. I don't feel like we have to get Crowder because we already have both James Cook and Stephon Diggs. But it would be nice. I don't want to lie and act like it wouldn't. Chark would actually be a very nice fit on this build as well, given the fact that with DJ Chark, you should have that expanded role to start the year. If we do indeed end up getting Michael Gallup and Chris Godwin missing time, maybe DJ Chark actually has a larger role with Jameson Williams not playing in Detroit through the first 6 weeks or so. So I actually like DJ Chark with this team to possibly sneak some of these injured guys through to that massive tournament. Okay, Fantasy Wizard only has 2 running backs. The 2 running backs are Josh Jacobs and Alexander Madison. And what the hell? He takes Hunter Henry over Naheem Hines or Michael Carter. My man, why are you doing that to us? Why are you doing that to us? Okay, Leroy on the clock. They have Kittle, Irv Smith Jr., and Gesicki. Why are you? Okay, these teams soaked up tight end. We have to go ahead. We have to take Robert Tonyan if he's available. It's a no-brainer. Arnold on the clock. They have Kyle Pitts at tight end. Maybe they're not even looking at the tight end position. Hopefully they go Matt Ryan, start to get some of the more of these quarterbacks off the board. They go Van Jefferson. We're going to get Robert Tonyan, thank God, as our tight end 1. Now with Tonyan, yes, we were making fun of people for drafting him last year. And I guess we get to add another player that may not be ready for week 1 and just now thought about it. Maybe we can look at Logan Thomas at the end of this. But here with Robert Tonyan, this upcoming season, going to be in a dramatically better situation with no Devontae Adams in this offense. And you're getting him at a significantly cheaper price compared to where he went at last year. So I'm all about drafting Tonyan this season. Okay, Lions Den, 84 on the clock. They go Gerald Everett. Of course, it would have been nice for us to have Everett on the way back, but now we can be rooting for... No, DJ Chark went off at pick 150 to Longhorns. I didn't even notice that. What are we going to want on the way back? Do we reach on Higbee? Yeah, we can't take a running back here. Like I already said, we're not drafting RB. Please, guys, start taking Naheem Hines. Get these guys off. We're hoping we get Tyler Higbee on the way back around. Very comfortable with Higbee as our tight end 2 in a best ball format. Tyrion Davis-Price, that's great for us. Honestly, probably better to see Tyrion Davis-Price off the board than Nyheim Hines. Tyler Algier, same thing, because there's no way Hines falls past. If Hines is available, pick 161, I probably have to take him. And Njoku 158, no, never mind. There are going to be no tight ends left for us. We're going to have to take a tight end if Higbee's available. But both these teams only have 4 running backs. I wouldn't be surprised if they go Hines. This team only has 1 quarterback as well. It would be very beneficial for us if they decided to go Matt Ryan. They go Hines, good. Lions said, come on, my man, you only got 1 quarterback. That quarterback is Tom Brady. They go Alec Pierce. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take Tyler Higbee, pick 161. Now we just need 1 more tight end. If we get Noah Fant on the way back around, I will be very happy about that. Highly unlikely that we end up getting Noah Fant, though, just looking at ADP and the way things break out. I am going to be fine with a Cameron Brate later on. I think we have to scratch off Logan Thomas on this draft board, considering the fact that we already have so many players that are going to potentially miss the beginning portion of the season. We have nobody that's guaranteed to miss the beginning of the year, but I think Michael Gallup's very, very likely to miss the beginning of the season, and I think Godwin's more likely than not to as well. Kenneth Gainwell off the board, good for us. Nico Collins, pick 163. I can't get behind it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not getting behind this Nico Collins price point. Sammy Watkins. We still need receivers. How many wide receivers do we need? So currently we need 1 more tight end. I guess we're going to go 1 more tight end and then 3 more wide receivers. We have very strong wide receivers at the very top, but we just don't really have that much depth at the position. Maybe if we find 2 wide receivers that we love and then there's a running back value that we feel like we can't pass up on, maybe we can turn this into a 6 RB team. I doubt it. We're probably just going to have to take one of those receivers. Herbert off the board for us at pick 165. Like the value of Herbert for the team that drafted him. Like the fact that he's off the board, pushing down some wide receiver value for us. Gus Edwards gone. Okay. These are the players that we're looking at. I'm honestly not even a massive fan of taking Evan Ingram. I would prefer Cameron Brate over Ingram. But I think Hayden Hurst is honestly in that same tier as well. So I like Will Fuller. I like Julio Jones. I'm not a big Kendrick Bourne guy. I'll take Kendrick Bourne if I miss on my quarterbacks early on and we end up having to take Mac Jones. I prefer Wan'Dale Robinson. AJ Green may be a solid pick on this build, just considering the fact that we could be without Michael Gallup and Chris Godwin to start the year. And then, yeah, let's see what players fall. Now, I will say if we end up getting, I'm assuming that we're going to have a couple of Cameron Brate, Evan Ingram, and Hayden Hurst all available to us. Now, I will say, no offense there. No offense an auto pick. We don't think about it. However, if we end up, say, with Cameron Brate, Evan Ingram, and Hayden Hurst all available to us on the clock at pick 176, we're probably going to go ahead and pass. Actually, no, never mind, because if we look at those teams on the end here, DB Parker only has Cole Kmet. Richie has Kelsey and Njoku. Don't know why he went there. But then F-Dub only has Dawson Knox. So it's definitely possible that you actually have those teams taking all 3 of these tight ends and then putting us in a very difficult spot. Maybe make the argument that Austin Hooper deserves to be up here with these 4 guys. And if they're all in the same tier, how about this? Let's go the way that we have the queue now. I think the queue set up in a good fashion that Corey Davis and George Pickens are a tier above some of the other wide receivers that we'll be looking at later on. So if those wide receivers do make it to us at 176, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take one of those guys. And if we have neither of those receivers, instead of reaching on Will Fuller, we'll choose our favorite out of these tight ends. And then we'll go ahead and we'll grab Fuller on the way back around. Okay, so George Pickens is off. So it's highly unlikely that we end up getting Corey Davis. Marlon Mack. This team only has 1 QB. Now it is Lamar Jackson. They only have 1 QB and 1 tight end. Come on, my man. Take Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's 20 picks past ADP. You definitely want Matt Ryan here. He goes Matt Ryan, so we're going to get Corey Davis. Very happy to take Corey Davis here as our wide receiver 6. I think based on the fact that Garrett Wilson may not have an extremely large role right away this season, Corey Davis could help us out with our dilemma of not scoring points at the very beginning of the year, which of course is definitely going to be important. And we're getting Corey Davis at a massive price point. Corey Davis does have an elite prospect profile coming into the NFL. He has showed flashes, of course, not great this past season dealing with injuries. Zach Wilson was absolutely atrocious. He was a train wreck. But in terms of the talent level of Corey Davis, compared to pretty much any other player in this range, especially at the wide receiver position. Corey Davis is just by far and away the most talented player here. So Jamal Williams, Zach Wilson, Jerick McKinnon, good. Get these running backs and quarterbacks off the board. And then after this, we're going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take a tight end. F-Dub decides to go Hayden Hurst. I guess you could make the argument that maybe taking Cameron Brate's a little bit overkill when we already have Godwin and Evans and we don't have Tom Brady on this team. We still have somewhat a correlation pick here with Evan Ingram if we decide to take him, pair him up with Travis Etienne for that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. So I think you can make the argument for either one of Cameron Brate or Evan Ingram, but you know what? Let's move Evan Ingram up in our queue, just given the fact that we do have Evans and Godwin. I don't want to have 3 of those pass catchers for Brady unless we actually have Brady on the roster. Now, I would take Cameron Brate over Austin Hooper. We're just trying to use this as a tiebreaker to determine who we want between Ingram and Cameron Brate. Okay, so we are going to go ahead. We will take Evan Ingram as our third tight end here. Hopefully patching this tight end room together with just some random spike weeks, finding some touchdowns here with these players. So let's highlight this team so far. I really like this team, guys. Please let me know what you're thinking in the comment section. But we have Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, Michael Gallup, Corey Davis at wide receiver. At quarterback, we have Josh Allen and Justin Fields. Running back, Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders, and James Cook. So I think we have a very good running back core. Obviously, great quarterbacks at tight end. When we get Robert Tonyan, Tyler Higbee, and Evan Ingram in a best ball format, I think we can make do. Obviously, it's not great, but if somehow Robert Tonyan can get back to scoring touchdowns at the same rate that he managed to back in 2020, which is highly unlikely, that touchdown rate's not going to return, but the targets could tip up with no Devontae Adams in this offense. It is a team with upside. It's a team with upside. Julio Jones goes pick 189. AJ Green off the board as well. Will Fuller is going to be my favorite wide receiver still available. We're done at tight end as well. We're not taking 4 tight ends on any builds. There's, in my opinion, no reason to do that. I know if you look at 4 tight end win rates from last year, they're okay, but I think a big portion of that reason is if you look at what teams would have taken 4 tight ends, it's the teams that waited until the very end of their drafts. And who was going at the very end of drafts? Rob Gronkowski and Dalton Schultz. More importantly, Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, the league winner from last year. Okay, so Tannehill goes 191. At this point, we want to see tight ends off. This team on the clock only has 1 tight end. That tight end is Albert O. If I were them, I'd double tap the position here with Cameron Brate and Austin Hooper. But at the same time, they only have 1 quarterback with Patrick Mahomes. They go Baker Mayfield. Like, I feel like you can get Baker on the way back around for you. They go Baker and Carson Wentz. They decided to go with a 3 QB build when they have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And they decided to go with the 2 tight end build, assuming they take a tight end in the last round when they have Albert O at tight end. Oh, in my opinion, that's bad. Why are you doing that? Why are you taking Baker and Wentz there? Of course, it helps us out. We already have Allen and Fields. Like, we don't need another quarterback. I just don't understand it from the strategy perspective. Brain Pat MCG on the clock. We're probably going to end up taking 2 wide receivers. I like David Bell. Of course, the issue with David Bell is he's not going to produce at the beginning of the year, and this is probably a bad team to take him on. So because we don't take Jamison Crowder, I think Isaiah McKenzie is going to be a fine pick. So let's move McKenzie up here behind Fuller. We'll move Kendrick Bourne ahead of Isaiah McKenzie because I think we could easily get Isaiah McKenzie in the 18th round. Is this team on auto? I think they maybe just auto-drafted Cameron Brate, which they probably should have gone Brate anyway, looking at their tight end room, but still, that is going to be solid for us. Okay, so Brian Robinson off the board, 196. Good, we're done at running back with Etienne, Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders, and James Cook. Isaiah McKenzie goes 197, so we're not going to get Isaiah McKenzie. Not the end of the world. We already have James Cook and Stephon Diggs, as we already mentioned. Maybe you make the argument, Mason, you have Justin Fields, might as well go out of your way, might as well go draft Byron Pringle in the last round, draft Velus Jones Jr. in the last round. I understand we want the correlation, but given the fact that Justin Fields can get there on his rushing production alone, I'm not going to take a wide receiver I perceive to be a worse option. So we're going to get Will Fuller. Love taking Will Fuller here at the end of the 17th. Will Fuller at this point has to be one of my most drafted wide receivers. I'm sure if you watch these drafts very often, let me pull this up on Underdog, but I believe He is one of my most drafted players at this point. Will Fuller in 15% of my drafts. He is my 4th most drafted receiver. Yeah, we have Will Fuller a lot. James Washington goes at the 205. Bourne would be fine for us. Obviously, we're getting him at a massive value. We're getting him 12 picks behind his ADP. Actually, more than that, right? We're getting like 209. Is that 22 picks behind his ADP? Or am I being an idiot? Yeah, that's 22 picks behind his ADP. If I'm ever finding a player 22 picks behind their ADP and they fit my roster construction, I'm taking them automatically. Now, Lions Den has 8 wide receivers, 5 running backs, 2 QBs, 2 tight ends. They go Terrace Marshall. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take Kendrick Bourne. Let me show y'all this team. I am very excited about this draft. I think this build with Diggs and Josh Allen and then hammering in my opinion, value running backs in the quote-unquote dead zone in the middle rounds. Historically speaking, the dead zone, I think this year is going to be a little bit different. God, I love this team. I felt like we had so many players fall to us. The roster construction's fine overall. But please let me know what you think in the comment section. And of course, if you have not done so already, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Go have some fun. Go hop in some of these real money fantasy football drafts and you're on right. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK so they match that deposit for you dollar for dollar up to $100. And you get my 2022 draft guide. But of course, thank you so much for all the support. I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a great day.